The views and opinions of the host and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network.
Good morning, Bahamas. Welcome to 96.9 FM. You're tuned into On the Clock with Erin Greene. And today is Wednesday, March 17th, 2021. We're also streaming live audio and video on GuardianTalkRadio.com. Remember, you can listen in on TV on Cable Bahamas Channel 969 or Flow Channel 612. You can also download the Guardian Radio app for your Apple or Android smart devices and listen to our audio feed or watch us on our video feed right there on the Guardian Radio app. You can also text us on the Guardian Radio text line. That's 422-4796. That's 422-4796. And that line is powered by BTC, Standard Text Rate Supply. You can also call us at 323-6232. That's 323-6232, 325-4316, or 326-4259. On the clock, we engage organizations, institutions, social and cultural leaders, and ordinary people to better understand the impact of public policy, private sector development, and emerging social and consumer trends. On the clock, we have conversations that help us understand and navigate a rapidly changing Bahamas. Good morning, Bahamas. Today is Wednesday, and I have three guests with me today. Unfortunately, they are not in studio. They're on the Zoom platform, but I have with me today women from CIWL, which is the Caribbean Institute for Women in Leadership, Bahamas chapter, and a guest from Zonta Bahamas, or Zonta New Providence Club. And those guests are today Ms. Jewel Edwards, who is the Director of Public Relations for CIWL, Ms. Charlene Paul, who is the Chair for CIWL Bahamas chapter, and Marissa Mason-Smith, who is the National Chair for Advocacy for Zonta Bahamas. And today we're going to be talking specifically about a program, a training opportunity called Preparing Women in Leadership, Parliamentary and Public Office Training. And I think what an apt time for a discussion, considering today the PLP have ratified 13 more candidates for the upcoming election. And on the front page, in the list of candidates, I only see 3 women. All of the options they had, all of the opportunities they had, I only see 3 women, which I think takes their total up to maybe 7 or 8 women. I, of course, stand to be corrected. I'm also not sure if this is the end, if they have ratified all of their candidates, but the leader of the opposition is there. So maybe this means this is the best the PLP is going to give us. So what a perfect time for this conversation, because if these major political parties refuse to put more women on the ticket, then at the very least, we on the ground that want to see more effective participation of women in politics can ensure that those women have access to the training opportunities necessary to prepare them to perform at the highest levels of governance, right? And I think this training opportunity is the very thing. And so, to my guests, good morning, ladies.
Good morning, Erin. Good morning.
So let's get this conversation started. Tell us briefly about your organization and why you found it, or why the organization found it important to initiate, support, or participate in this training program.
Well, good morning, Bahamas, and good morning, Madam Erin, and to my panelists this morning, Ms. Joel Edwards and Charlene Paul. As you are aware, we've just come off celebrating International Women's Day under the theme Choose to Challenge. And in addition to that, every day is Women's Day. But from a national perspective and the role of Zonta, which seeks to empower and advance the status of women, we continue to advocate and celebrate the achievements of women in our country. And so our partnership with CWIL is a match made in heaven in that our focus are the same: eliminate violence against women and increase women parliamentary leadership in our nation.
Awesome. Ms. Paul?
So, Caribbean Women in Leadership, this is a nonpartisan and independent non-governmental organization established to monitor and strengthen the work of increasing women's political participation in the region. And this is accomplished, Erin, through advocacy, networking, research, and capacity building. CWIL has been operating in the region for more than 20 years and effectively assisting women throughout the Caribbean in that regard. And we have been pleased to partner with Zonta, the Department of Gender and Family Affairs, to see that this major significant initiative to increase women representation in Parliament, in policy making, actually takes place in the Bahamas. And so we're so pleased and thankful to be here and to share on this very important training. And as you indicated, it is at a critical point in time.
Absolutely. Good morning, Ms. Edwards. Are you in the room?
I am in the room. Good
Awesome.
morning. Yes. We're delighted to be here.
Thank you. So I tuned into your presentation, your interview last night on another program. So let's start with the details of the program, and then let's get into some of the issues involved around it. So tell us about the program. What are some of the modules and the content that participants could look forward to?
So CWIL provides this kind of training to women leaders to build capacity, and the whole purpose and intent to create and to advance transformational leadership. And so the modules, the training objectives, to provide leadership training, to improve the understanding of gender and governance, and identify approaches or opportunities to promote gender equality and women's transformational leadership in governance. 3, is to formulate strategies to overcome barriers which may limit women's involvement and active participation in political and decision-making capacities. So in the attainment of those objectives, some of the areas covered: exploring the principles of gender equality and leadership, understanding human rights, democracy and political participation, identifying those core international conventions and treaties, and giving the background of CEDAW, Beijing Platform for Action, and the Sustainable Development Goals. Oftentimes, our women and our candidates are not familiar with these international platforms that actually have put several standards in place. Also, how to be effective in leadership and management spaces of government. Mm-hmm. Evaluate your personal values and beliefs and leadership styles. And I'm going to ask Marisa to share more on the communications piece, because that's a big piece of this module as well.
Thank you so much. As you're aware that we're taking a holistic approach to the development of our women as we seek to empower them to present them their best selves. And so we're looking not just at the technical side, but we're looking at strengthening the soft skills of our women as we prepare them for leadership. And so we see There are different components of communication. We're going to be addressing how to effectively communicate, how to create a press statement, how talking about your body language, your listening skills, how to handle negative press. We're going to be talking about how to resolve conflict even with the press. And we're looking at what are your core values? Have you ever stopped to identify them? Are you walking the talk? We're going to be looking at
Can I
how to.
can I for a moment? So like when we're talking about soft skills, right? I've got a text here and the individual is asking, I guess they're sort of fed up with all the woman talk, right? In the midst of Women's Month. And so I want to sort of make this point here. When we talk about the soft skills that will be involved in the training module, right? I'm looking at today's paper and thinking about the last week's worth of news, and I'm thinking about soft skills like spatial awareness, right? Where, for instance, you as a politician understand the space that you occupy in your constituency or in a community, right? And in the country. And then you understand how you need to modify your behavior in any particular space that you're in based on your proximity to the people in that space, whether it's an economic proximity. So a skill like spatial awareness will teach a politician that when you go into underprivileged communities, that maybe it's not a good look or it's a bad move to flash money and to bring dreams of giving people things, right? Because what people really need in those communities are infrastructural and economic changes to help them achieve their own things like you do. And is that some of the sort of conversations that you guys are going to be having in this training?
Of course, we do have that covered, and we're going to be covering some of that under our emotional intelligence platform, understanding the environment you're in and how we are going to build the capacity of the various constituencies that you're in. Because if you as the leader or as the parliamentarian or as a leader do not have those emotional intelligence skills of your awareness and the environment to which you're speaking and addressing, you're going to end up in the regular norm. We are raising the standard in this training because we do believe that giving out $1 is fine, but we want to empower people that they can make their own dollars and make a positive contribution to the nation, to their families. And so we're coming with a different mindset, and of course that's how women lead.
Mm-hmm.
We're not looking for a quick fix, but we're looking at fixed problems, and that is through training and development.
Absolutely. Tell us about some of the facilitators and trainers that are participating in the program. And the partnering institutions.
Our partnering institutions is the Department of Gender and Family Affairs, CWIL, and Zonta. Mm-hmm. And we work across lines with other NGOs. And so we have a myriad of dynamic speakers. Many of them will come from the CWIL side of it, but we do have some of our very more matured and seasoned politicians who will make contributions. We speak of Dr. Mildred Hall Watson. We have Honorable Allison Gibson Maynard. We have the Honorable Dame Janet Boswick. We have Johnny Ann Dorset. There's some other persons we're still confirming, but we do have a cross-section of women who made positive contributions to our country.
So also
and lead certain sessions. The Honorable Melanie Griffin. We have women who will act as mentors and coaches in some of our table topic sessions.
Also from the CWIL regional arm of things, who are the main facilitators, I will add. We have Dr. Rosina Wilshire, and she is a gender specialist and well known in the region and internationally, having served at the United Nations level. We also have Lady Anande Trotman, who is the president for CIVIL, amongst our distinguished facilitators for this training session. This session is really seen as a flagship training for the Bahamas. And so we are welcoming all of candidates, aspirants, and those who would like to lead in national office. Also, I'm going to invite Jewel to share with us on the good governance aspect of this training, because again, we're talking about transformative leadership.
Right, because one of the first things, Jewel, if I could say, one of the first things I want to ask you guys is, in your good governance training module, will you prepare candidates, particularly female candidates, to balance or reconcile the task of having to balance multiple obligations to multiple sectors and sort of concepts and institutes? So for instance, a woman, particularly a woman that may have an immediate family, a husband and or children, will have to balance, personal life and things like personal health and wellness with duty to constituents, with duty to party, right, with duty to community as a whole. And if they become a cabinet minister, now they also have to balance all of those things with duty to cabinet, right? And so for a woman entering politics, particularly a woman who wants to focus on women's issues, or people may have an expectation that she focuses on women's issues, how does she strike that balance between the obligations?
Oh, fantastic lead-in, Ms. Greene. And even as I followed your program, in recent weeks, we want to make sure it highlight. This is, this training. Yes, we're highlighting women, but this is not gender specific. Good governance, as you know, is really about accountability, transparency, authenticity, responsiveness, rule of law, ethical governance, and one thing you've raised, a lot of times we hear, women, they're emotionally challenged because they have to balance wear so many hats. The wonderful thing, and statistics bear this out, that women in their capacity, they're highly emotional intelligent, which gives them the capacity to multitask, but not just multitask, but to be multi-focused. And so I want to dispel that myth that because we are women, we are not capable of being multi-focused and governing accordingly.
Absolutely. But isn't it a fair expectation, right? Because when you look at the political landscape right now, we can see that men in politics have a difficult time, right, with the multi-focus. Men in politics have a difficult time balancing these obligations, right? Obligation to cabinet, with obligation to constitution, with obligation to constituents. So, I'm not presuming that women will just naturally be able to handle those things better. But I think that a program that's focusing on improving viability for participation would identify that as a area to look at.
So, Erin,
yes,
here's the thing. Leadership in any arena calls for this balance and understanding how to network, how to allow others in their sphere to use their gifts and talents, and basically how to manage that whole process. We have seen women rise in various areas of society, whether that be corporate, other aspects of government, etc. And they've been balancing this. They've been doing this for some time now. So politics is not separate and apart from that. But I think women have shown how they're able to tap into a network, a support system, and family, friends, and also how to work with others to get the job done. And the training that we're talking transformational is really for everybody. You can't do it all, but you absolutely can partner, collaborate, and network with others to get the job done. And we need more of that in our country and in our leadership.
Absolutely. 1 second, little housekeeping. Dear texter, please don't call the text line. You can call 323-6232, 325-4316, or 325-4259 to get into the show. So, ladies, I want you to give us the dates and the registration info for the program before we get too deep into the conversation.
So the dates, this Friday and Saturday, March 19th and 20th. On Friday, we begin at 5 p.m. and it goes through to 8. On Saturday, we begin at 10 a.m. and we go through to 4. And then the following weekend, similarly, Friday and Saturday. You can register. Our flyer is available on our Facebook page, Caribbean Women in Leadership, Bahamas National Chapter, and the registration link is there. So please register. Our registration numbers are really racking up. We are well over 300 by now, and that's a clear indication of the level of interest and concern in doing things differently in our country.
Mm-hmm. So here's something that I noticed, right? The training isn't just about like sort of women in politics and preparing them for frontline politics. It's also about training for public office, right? Which could be a variety of spaces that you perform in. But I realized that I don't see a lot of training opportunities available generally for men or for women who want to learn more about performing at that level and what's required to sort of get there or qualify yourself to get there. And so I find that this is a great program. Don't you think it would be useful or effective to a strategy that's aimed at increasing women's participation in leadership to invite men to also participate in the training?
Absolutely. You know, you're absolutely right in that we do need male supporters. And this training is transformational. So it's straight across the board for all. You know, they say heavy is the head that bears the crown. And as much information and knowledge, awareness that can be brought to bear for individuals, absolutely useful and necessary. And you're right, we do not have sufficient of this happening on an ongoing basis in our country. That's the only way we're going to really improve and grow. So, but CVIL's mission is really about getting more women representation in Parliament. So yes, we do not ban men, but our focus is really on getting more women there.
Absolutely.
I do want to add to Mrs. Paul's comments. You know, we realize that taking on a political office in this country is very serious business. We as women take it very seriously. We recognize the significance of leadership in our country. And what we're doing through this training is preparing women for opportunities. We realize that you just don't wake up one morning and says, you know what, I want to be a cabinet minister. It calls for preparation. Or I want to be the chairman of this board, or I want to be the CEO of this company. It calls for preparation. And so this training is multifaceted. That is going to equip the participants with the skill set, a renewed mindset, and even taking ownership for national development.
Yes.
I am pleased to say that as a result of our Women's Parliament on December 11th last year, and I really want to say kudos to the Honorable D. Halston Moutry, the Speaker of the House, who opened the door to allow the women to take the Parliament over. And so this training is one of the deliverables that came out of the resolutions to the government at that time. And so we believe that we are activating what we have said we will do, and in a timely manner, to ensure that we stay on course. We're very strategic as women, and so we need to ensure that persons are adequately and properly trained for whenever the opportunity comes.
Now,
And so, Erin, we're talking about decorum and etiquette, when to wear the appropriate clothes, how to dress for events, understanding parliamentary procedures and protocols.
now, one moment. See, understanding how to dress and how to groom yourself seems to me a bit like respectability politics, right? Because it's a given that there's an expectation that people will be well groomed, right? But there's also an understanding that people come from different socioeconomic backgrounds, and that standard may not be the same for every class, right? I become concerned when we focus on things like how you look and how you speak, because we know that there's a tactic in politics to shut people that we use to shut people down, and we simply say, oh, well, you don't look like you should be a part of this conversation. You don't look like you're prepared, right, for this level of representation. And in a quick attempt to shut people down, in the modules, do you talk about things like respectability politics and some of the cultural aspects in the political, some of the aspects in the political culture that tend to not just shut out women, but also tend to shut out women and men of different socioeconomic classes?
So the civil whole basis and foundation for training and for life is all inclusive. It's about including everyone, ensuring that there is equal participation and representation of all classes and types in society. So in no way, shape, or form we are about trying to create any elite or special class, or the governing class, or who are fit to lead, to discriminate in any way. So let's please dispel that right away.
Absolutely.
Society has all strata, and so all strata needs to be properly represented.
Yes, and I want to endorse that. We are all inclusive, and so there is no elitism, no classism as it relates to the training and opportunities, because I do believe that our women are talented, they're capable, but sometimes we all need that kind of refining process to present ourselves. Women are judged harder than the men. And so we're finding that as women, and we understand the whole parliamentary procedures, there are dress codes, there are decorums, there is expectations on how you present yourself. And we do not want anyone, man or woman, to misrepresent the standards of what is required in leading at the national level. We're looking at your branding as well.
Yeah.
And so we're going to be doing mentoring and coaching even along the way throughout this training.
Absolutely. So I've got a text here, and the text is, training is always good, but how many women did recommend or submit names for nominations to various parties for the 2022 election? And so let me just tag on a question there. Does civil operate that way? Like, is that a function of your organization, recommending women for nomination?
So civil is nonpartisan. We remain independent. Our role is to empower and encourage. We provide the tools, the training to encourage women to come to the fore, to prepare them, and then we advocate. We advocate across the board at the highest levels. And as Marisa indicated earlier, we took this straight to Parliament. And so we advocate at the highest level to get more women to the table, to have those policy decisions, such as the call now for quotas, etc. That's civil's role. Civil's role is not to get involved in bipartisan politics.
Absolutely. So let me throw this out there. Like I said, I listened to the show last night, and I heard some very radical ideas coming from you ladies who, I can be honest, I really didn't expect it, right? And so I want to throw out, sort of this question, what are some of the radical strategies you are considering to shift the social and political cultures? For instance, when I got the text, I thought about it, and I understand that Civil is a nonpartisan group, right? Which means that you hold no allegiance to any political party, and your intent is to never do that. Would it be a good strategy for an organization like Civil, right, or a consortium or a group of organizations that focus on good governance and things like integrity in politics, to create a list of people or potential candidates every year? So we don't assign them to any particular, we don't worry about political affiliation, but every year we create a list of people that we would like to see in governance. And do you think a radical strategy like that would begin to shift the culture, political culture, from the ground up?
Well,
Great.
Erin, I just want to respond before I respond.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the radical initiatives we talked about last evening, and again as part of one of our deliverables, and that is to encourage all political parties to subscribe to quotas. Because when we look at where we are now, 13% of women we've had in our parliaments today, 13%, 1-3, that is very low.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the radical initiatives is that we're saying by the 2022 general elections, we want to see 30% of the constituencies be reserved for women. We're talking about, we're wanting to see 50% of senatorial appointments by both government and opposition to be women. We're talking about 50% of our appointments to cabinet be women. 50% of our candidates chosen to contest local government elections are women. And by 2027, 50% of the constituencies general election to be reserved for women, so that women will achieve its obligations to the Bahamian people.
Okay, can I ask a quick question? There is no, so with this quota, right? I think it's a good idea, right? If we get 50% women in the country, we should be far closer to 50% representation, right, than 13%.
Of course.
But with your quota doesn't stipulate women with feminist ideals, right? You're not saying we need 50% of feminist women in the House. You're just saying 50% of women, regardless of their political ideology, right?
Yes. But listen, what we're also saying
But I think that's a good thing.
Yes, what we're saying is we're preparing women for these positions. It's just not going to happen. Even that someone may have a desire, you have to prepare. You have to look at your family. You have to look at your network, your finances. You have to look at what this really means. And so we're saying preparation meets opportunity. And we do believe that we are consistently going to promote and collaborate with other NGOs and with the Department of Gender and Family Affairs and with CWIL to ensure that we meet these quotas, because the governments and successive governments have signed on to CEDAW. We have signed on to the Beijing platforms, the Bella de Para conventions. We've signed on to all of these treaties and conventions, but we have not effected them. So now we're saying between Zonta, as we both advocate and empower women, and CWIL, our mission primarily is the same. We're saying we're taking the driver's seat and we're encouraging all persons to be a part of it. It is nonpartisan. So it doesn't matter.
I get
We're
you.
all inclusive.
I've got a text here that says, so we want special treatment and or affirmative type action?
Absolutely. If that's what it takes, Erin, we have, like to your point, we're 50%, 51% in fact. And of the electorate, we're actually in the last election, we were 55% women. So absolutely, if it takes affirmative action, quotas, we'll take it. But we're not saying that just a token woman or just put a woman there for putting a woman there's sake. We're saying that women are ready. We are doing our part in making them more ready, if you will. So yes, we support.
So yesterday I had Mrs. Komalafe, leader of the DNA, on the show. And I asked her a question, and I think the question was, do women have more agency than they think they have, or are they are led to believe, right? Do women have more agency than they think or are led to believe? And Ms. Komalafe's response to that question was that women are being led to believe they have more agency than they actually enjoy or can enjoy on the political, in frontline politics. And so what she was saying was that both society and the political class and the political culture suggest to us that they are prepared, society, they're prepared for women to be in leadership. And the biggest barrier to women's participation in frontline leadership is women themselves. Ms. Komalafe's position was that when you actually get into that space, you find that there are far more barriers to equal and equitable participation than you see sort of on the surface. And that led me to think about not just the number of countries that have already elected women prime ministers, right, female prime ministers, but also the number of Caribbean countries that have already elected female prime ministers. And we start with Dame Mary Eugenia Charles in Dominica. And then we know Kamala Prasad Bissessar in Trinidad and Tobago, and correct me if you have the correct pronunciation, Portia Simpson Miller in Jamaica, and Mia Motley in Barbados, right? And then I look at today's Guardian and I see Mrs. Glenys Hannah Martin being ratified. And I think about her as a perfect example, right? That's a name that should have already been on this list of women prime ministers. This is a woman who is obviously and undeniably in leadership in her party, but taking note of what Mrs. Komalafe said yesterday, I question the extent to which she is able to participate equitably, like equally, in decision-making processes in that party. And I asked myself the question, why wouldn't Glenys Hannah Martin have already been appointed to leader of the party? So my producer is telling me it's time for a break. When I get back from the break, I want to talk about what are the barriers, the real barriers that are preventing women from participating in frontline politics, because sometimes it's not what we think it is. You're listening to 96.9 FM. You're on the clock with Erin Greene, and we will be back after this break.
You just show me Bella Boy in his phone.
What you mean? He take picture of that good for nothing boy?
Shh, you don't want Bella here. You say that. You know she always say that's my good child.
So what he doing in Junior phone?
Oh, he there cause the police looking for him. He on their wanted list.
Wanted persons in your phone now?
Yes, child. And when police want to find anybody quick, after something happen, they can send picture direct to your phone. Go to Google Play or App Store and search for Crack Crime Bahamas. Then pick install and it will go straight to your phone.
There is also a section on missing persons.
Yes, girl. Everybody needs to get this app so police can tell us right away when these people go missing. Just like an alert system.
Yes, it has numbers for Crime Stoppers Bahamas, so you can call and nobody knows it's you. Call directly to Miami and give the information without giving your name or anything about you. I tried the other day, and when I hear Junior and his boys talking about where they hide those guns, I walk quick round the corner and call that number.
Call 328-8477 from Nassau or 242-300-8477 from the Family Islands.
Hear that? That's the sound of your money working for you. Because at CFAO, we know you work hard for your money, so we make sure your money works hard for you. In 20 years as a leading investment firm, we've helped thousands of Bahamians grow their wealth and build a more stable future with savings plans, pensions, and wealth services to suit everyone. Whoever you are, whatever you do, we have financial solutions that will work hard for you. Visit or call us today to put your money to work. CFAO, seize your future today.
Beulah, gal, can you believe this? We are now the patrol queens of the neighborhood.
We now large and in charge. So we need to check out what's going on in everybody's yard. What about that gun that we know that Junior and his homeboys just ran out? Can we report that too?
Of course we can.
But we could be in deep trouble if they find out.
We need to report what we see, Beulah. When you call Crime Stoppers, they just answer your call in Miami.
So then we can report everything? Guns, where they hiding the drugs, who shoot who part of which gang, or who disturbing the peace with the loud music and the motorcycles.
Then our neighborhood will be the best in the Bahamas, and everybody gonna want to come live here. And then our house price will go up, gal.
So what we waiting on? What's the number?
If you see something, say. Let us all pitch in and stop the crime before it's your time. Call 328-8477 from Nassau or 242-300-8477 from the Family Islands. Or text us through the Crack Crime Bahamas app. Stop the crime before it's your time.
For the past 33 years, Great Commission Ministries has been defending the poor and hurting, feeding the hungry, and sheltering the homeless. We invite you to support our Live to Give program and make a difference in these challenging times. Become a donor by giving a one-time annual gift or a monthly donation of $50 or $100. Call Great Commission Ministries at 325-5801 for more details. Or visit our headquarters at 237 Wolf Road. Join Live to Give today. This public service announcement is proudly sponsored by this radio station.
Good morning, Bahamas. You're on the clock with Erin Greene. Today is Wednesday, March the 17th, 2021, and I'm talking with Mrs. Charlene Paul, Ms. Edwards, and Ms. Marissa Mason-Smith from Cyril and Zonta about the training program that's taking place this weekend and next weekend called Preparing Women in Leadership, Parliamentary and Public Office Training. And before we went to the break, I sort of set up a question looking at some of the women who have already been, or some of the countries that have already appointed women prime ministers and women, elected women prime ministers and women leaders in the country, and looking at the local context, ask, what are some of the barriers that are preventing women from frontline leadership? In the break, I got a text that said, "Good morning, Ms. Greene. You just said why Ms. Hannah Martin was not appointed leaders yet. Leaders are elected in this country, not appointed." And I wanted to make this point here. I don't know if that's exactly within the political parties. I don't know for certain whether candidates are elected, right? And if positions of leadership are elected, or whether they're appointed by special cabals, like special power groups within the party, right? And I don't even know if the entire party or even the entire constituency team participates or has the final word on that decision-making process. And so that text led me to ask right away, do you think the political culture inside the parties and the way the parties operate themselves are one of the biggest barriers to women's ability to move in and perform in frontline politics or to attain the position of prime minister?
Ms. Greene, definitely love the question, love the lead in. What keeps me awake at night sometimes is wondering, why is it that we have so many high performing women in our nation, and why aren't they achieving the level of leadership and prominence that they should? And so I was thinking about your question about the barriers. There are some realities we have to face. Reality number one, we are in a patriarchal system. It is still an old boys system, and that's one of the realities. In addition, a lot of the barriers we face as women is systemic, it's cultural. We have a lot of preconceived biases, prejudices, and there's still that subtle form of exclusion, whether we want to face it or not. And I'm not just talking in the political arena, I'm talking also in terms of the corporate arena. Sometimes I wonder, we need to challenge our leaders in terms of becoming more intentional about including women. We need to continuously guard against subconscious and conscious biases. And, I'm a big proponent. We have to continue to lobby, to let our voices be heard, say this is not acceptable. Women are underrepresented. And so once we come to the realities of the patriarchal, cultural, and all these pre-established biases, then we can be prepared to fight the good fight.
Mm-hmm. So one quick housekeeping note. I got a text just now. It was too large and the device will not download it. So if you send that long text, please break it up and send it again in parts, or call in and give it to me in person. I'm ready for it because I feel like you got a lot to tell me. And I think, it may be a very good question for you ladies. I really want them to get it back in. But back to the barriers, right? A number of my guests through this, I've been on the show, have reminded me how important it is to speak to the positive, right? But I want to frame the question, and then we can sort of reframe it. Sometimes women are women's biggest barriers to upward mobility, to success, right? Sometimes women are perpetuating and engaging in the cultures that ultimately prevent women and other women for achieving higher levels in governance or higher levels in politics, right? In your program and in the work that you do generally, how much time do you spend creating or curating? And for the audience, curating is what the people in the museums do when they put up an art piece. They look at the space and they determine where every piece is supposed to go for the perfect presentation, right? How much time is Civil and other women's organizations spending creating and curating spaces to interrogate the ways that women become barriers to other women? And not just in politics, also in the workspace, right? Where we know that we have cultures of sexual harassment, bullying, vindictiveness, and victimization, and some of that behavior, some of the sexual harassment, and a lot of the bullying, vindictiveness, and victimization comes from women. Are women's organizations taking their role or, taking on the challenge of having these conversations?
Absolutely. So if Civil intentionally addresses gender responsible leadership so that human rights, democracy, and political participation are hallmarks. And part of the training is really helping the participants to understand the role, the need to ensure that gender parity is achieved. Mm-hmm. You were right. Women are as likely as men to be barriers, actually, and have the patriarchal mindset that my colleague Jewel spoke to. Here is a major myth that needs to be busted. Mm-hmm. And, right here in our country, many of our, older people in particular, because of the culture, believe that the Bible teaches that women ought to, yield to male leadership and male dominance. That was never the case. You would find from in the beginning, Genesis, when God made male and female, the Bible says, and he gave them dominion. And so that's a major barrier that we have to pull down in the mindset of our people.
Right, and not to understand that. I was going to say, not to remove religion entirely, but to be open to other interpretations of text, right?
So you want to unpack that a little bit more?
Well, what I mean is I'm suggesting that when we do that, we're not telling people that they have to get rid of their religion or their religious beliefs. We are just encouraging them to take a look at their beliefs from a different perspective or theological interpretation.
Absolutely, because the same, and the reason I reference the Bible is because in our society, that's where a lot of the patriarchy is being referenced or used
Or being
reference.
right, pulled from.
Yes,
And-
and
so-
misguidingly.
Yeah, I got you.
So-
Go on. Sorry, I got callers on the line, and I know they want to talk to y'all. So I want to let them into the conversation.
Absolutely.
Caller, you're on the clock.
Morning, Madam.
Good morning.
I am a woman,
Yes.
and I have been maliciously deprived, parliamentarians, especially in social services, for just assistance.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you for your call. Caller, you're on the clock. Oh, I'm sorry we missed that second call, and the first caller may have been dropped. But I think I'm familiar with that voice and possibly with that story, right? And so we know that that women and men, but as we're focused on women, we know that women who have committed to contributing to politics and to governance generally outside of the political sphere, a lot of them have removed themselves from that space because they feel that they're not safe in that space, you know? And what's the responsibility of women in those spaces to ensure that not just women, but everyone in those spaces are safe? And is that a woman's responsibility?
It's leadership's responsibility. And we have to protect and ensure that there are safe spaces so that we have people can function freely and in their God-given democratic rights. We have to protect those spaces, and governments and leaders have to take charge and to ensure that that's happening.
Absolutely. I got another caller on the line. Caller, you're on the clock.
We have a responsibility to care for each other as well, and to ensure that the well-being of all citizens in this country are equal. And this is a whole thing, another conversation when we talk about gender equality in our country. And so we have a responsibility as leaders in the church to care and to ensure that justice, there's equity, and that there is safe spaces and places for the people of this country.
Absolutely. I just want to ask Civil to sort of re-emphasize. Oh boy, I think my producer is telling me that we're quickly out of time. Ladies, you got the last word. Please remind our listening audience of the dates and the way to register for the training program and where they can find more information about the training program.
So, Civil page, Civil National Chapter, our Facebook page, you'll find the flyer. Registration link is right there. You click on that and it takes you right into the registration. Training is this weekend, Friday, 5 to 8, and Saturday, 10 to 4. And again, the following weekend, March 26th and 27th, same times, all virtual via Zoom. So everyone all around our family islands, we want to send a special shout out for them to join on as well.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for joining us, ladies. Remember, the name of the program is Preparing Women in Leadership, Parliamentary and Public Office Training. They've already had 300 people plus sign up. Please sign up if you have the time to participate, even if you're not running in frontline politics, even if you're just a lowly member of your party or you're thinking about starting a party. This is a great opportunity to get a better sense of the political space that directs our lives and your opportunity to participate in it. Ladies, thank you so much for joining the conversation. You know, whether the PM says it's election time or not, it's up to us to prepare ourselves to participate in one of the most important collective exercises in our country. So thank you for joining me, Bahamas, in this conversation. You've been on the clock with Erin Greene. This is 96.9 FM, and Unleash with Levon Miller is coming up next.